There is a morning coming for you, not distant, not theoretical, a specific morning when you will open your eyes, and the thing you wanted will simply be there, not as an event, as your life. And on that morning, you will not celebrate. You will not weep. You will pour your coffee, and you will notice, with a feeling so quiet it barely registers, that this is simply how it is now. You will not remember the exact night it shifted. You will not be able to point to the moment the outer world caught up. It will feel as though it was always this way, and in a sense that I am going to explain to you tonight, it was. I am speaking to you from that morning. Everything I am about to tell you is what made it inevitable. I know what you have been doing. You have been building, assembling, as working on yourself with the dedication of someone constructing a house from the ground up. You have been reading, practicing, affirming, stacking habits and techniques and inner work like bricks, one on top of the other, trying to become the version of yourself that has the life you want. And I want you to hear me when I say this. I am not here to tell you that effort was wasted. It was not. It brought you here. But it brought you here so I could tell you the one thing the effort could never teach you on its own. You cannot build what already exists. The version of you that has your desire is not under construction. It is not being assembled. It is not waiting for you to finish improving, finish healing, finish earning the right to step into it. It is finished. It has always been finished. It exists right now, in this moment, as a complete state of consciousness, as real and as furnished as the room you are sitting in. Your struggle has never been a building problem. It has been a location problem. You have been standing in one room of a building that contains every room, and you have been trying to redecorate the walls instead of walking through the door. Let me take you to the night I showed this to Neville, West 72nd Street, winter of 1933. Neville was 28 years old. He was a dancer. He was broke. He was separated from his first wife and had a young son he could barely support. He came to me one evening and said he wanted to go home to Barbados. He said he needed to find a way. He asked me to help him figure out the passage, the money, the logistics. I did not help him find a way. I told him he was already in Barbados. He looked at me as though I had lost my mind. He could see his apartment. He could feel the cold of a New York winter. Every piece of evidence available to his senses told him he was standing in Manhattan, not on the island where he was born. And I understood why he could not hear me, because what I was telling him was not a motivational reframe. It was not positive thinking. It was a literal statement about the structure of reality that he did not yet have the framework to receive. So I explained. I said, the version of you sitting on a ship to Barbados already exists. The version of you arriving at the dock in Bridgetown already exists. These are not futures to be created. They are states to be entered. You do not need to get there. There is no distance between you and that version of yourself. There is only a door. And the door is not opened by planning or arranging or figuring out the how. The door is opened by feeling, by assuming in this moment the feeling of the man who is already there. Neville did not fully understand that night, but he began to practice. He stopped trying to arrange passage. He stopped looking for the money. He began each night before sleep to feel the salt air on his skin, to hear the sounds of Bridgetown, to sleep in the state of a man who was already home, and within weeks his brother sent him tickets he had not asked for. A berth appeared on a ship that was fully booked. The landlord accepted late payment without argument. every person and circumstance rearranged, not because Neville had manifested cleverly, but because he had finally entered the room where those events were already the natural furniture. Neville wrote about this for the rest of his life. He called it the bridge of incidents. He said that once you occupy the state of the wish fulfilled, the subconscious mind builds a bridge of events through people and circumstances you could not have predicted that delivers the outer experience to match the inner fact. But the bridge does not begin construction until you are in the state, not moving toward it, in it. This is the mechanism I want you to understand tonight, because it changes everything about how you approach your desire. All possible states of consciousness already exist, simultaneously, right now. You are not creating your desired reality. You are not building it. You are not attracting it from some distant place. You are selecting it. The way you select a frequency on a radio. The music was always playing. You were simply tuned to a different station. Neville wrote this with a clarity that still moves me. He said, "Creation is finished. Creativeness is only a deeper receptiveness, for the entire contents of all time and all space, while experienced in a time sequence, actually coexist in an infinite and eternal now." Read that again if you must. It is not poetry. It is architecture. Every version of your life that could ever exist already does exist. The wealthy version, the loved version, the healed version, the version where the thing you want is so ordinary you do not think about it anymore. All of them are here, right now. Not as possibilities, as facts. A state is not something you create through effort. A state is a complete, self-contained configuration of consciousness. It has its own assumptions, its own inner speech, its own feeling tone, its own outer world, and every state already exists in the structure of consciousness, the way every room already exists in a building, whether you are standing in that room or not. You have been standing in one room, the room labeled wanting, or working toward, or almost there, and you have been decorating its walls with affirmations and vision boards and morning routines, trying to make it look like the room you actually want to be in. But the room labeled having is right next door. It is already furnished. It already has everything in it. You do not need to move the furniture from one room to another. You need to move yourself. And you move yourself through feeling, not through effort, not through strategy, not through the accumulation of enough positive thoughts to earn passage. Through feeling, specifically, through assuming the feeling of being the person who already has the thing and sustaining that feeling until it becomes the dominant state from which you live. The outer world then rearranges, not because you attracted something, because the mirror updated to reflect the new room you are standing in. Now, let me take you deeper, because there is something here that trips up even the most sincere students, and I want to remove it tonight. The reason you have not been able to find the version of you that has the desire is because you have been looking for it. And searching for it is the one act that guarantees you will never arrive. The search implies separation. The moment you look for the better version, you confirm to the subconscious that you are not it. And the subconscious, which does not evaluate your intention, but only reads your state, receives a clear instruction. I do not have this. And it faithfully maintains that instruction with the precision it brings to everything. Neville wrote, "Do not try to make it so. Simply assume that it is so." The difference between those two sentences is the difference between a lifetime of effort and a single night of transformation. Making it so is building. Assuming it is so is entering. One requires time, strategy, and proof. The other requires only feeling. There was a man who came to Neville earning $600 a month. He had been visualizing wealth for months. He had studied the law. He had tried to find the version of himself that earned more. Nothing changed. When Neville asked him to describe his practice, the man said he spent every session imagining what it would be like to be wealthy. Neville told him that was the problem. He said, "You are imagining what it would be like. That means you are standing outside the state, looking in. Stop looking at the wealthy version. Be the wealthy version right now, in this chair. Feel what the man who earns what he wants feels on an ordinary afternoon. Not the excitement of getting it, the quiet normalcy of having it." The man stopped the intense practice. He stopped searching. He simply sat in the feeling of a man whose income was no longer a concern, not forcing it, not performing it, just letting the feeling be there the way the feeling of sitting in a chair is there, unremarkable, unquestioned, simply true. Within weeks, he received a promotion he had not applied for. His income increased by more than he had been visualizing. The bridge of incidents assembled itself the moment he stopped building and started being. And here is something else you need to hear, because it is the thing that keeps pulling you back into the old room every time you begin to feel the new one. Your current reality is not evidence of what is true. It is evidence of what you have been assuming. I know how that lands. I know you look around and see circumstances that feel permanent, numbers that feel fixed, people who have not changed, situations that feel like proof that the version of you that has the desire is far away or fictional. But those circumstances are not a report on truth. They are a delayed printout of a previous state of consciousness. They are yesterday's weather forecast being read as today's sky. Neville said it as plainly as language allows. The world is yourself pushed out. Everything you see in your outer world is a reflection of a state you occupied before. Not the state you're in right now, but one you were in days or weeks or months ago. The outer world is always behind. It is never current. To judge your progress by your circumstances is to read the last chapter of the old book and conclude that the new book has not been written. But the new book has been written. You simply have not turned the page yet. Neville told the story of a woman whose husband had left. Every morning she woke up to an empty house and took it as evidence that the marriage was over. She was reading the outer world as fact. Neville told her, "The empty house is the printout of the state you were in 3 months ago. It has no authority over the state you're in now." She stopped arguing with the evidence. She stopped fighting the outer world. She began sleeping in the feeling of the marriage restored, the warmth, the weight beside her, the ordinariness of a shared morning, not with desperation, with the quiet certainty of a woman who already had what she wanted. The husband returned within weeks. He could not explain why. The mirror had simply updated. And this brings me to the deepest thing I want to give you tonight. The thing that collapses every remaining distance between you and the version of yourself that has everything you have been reaching for. You do not become the new version. You recognize that you already are it. There is no gap between who you are and who you want to be. The version that has the desire is not separate from you. It is you, standing in a different state. The feeling of distance is an illusion created by the perspective of the old state. From inside the room of wanting, the room of having, looks far away. But it is not far away. It is the next room. and you are already the person who lives in it. You have simply been wearing the wrong garment. Neville describes states as garments that consciousness wears. You do not transform into the wealthy version of yourself. You wear the state of wealth. The self underneath is unchanged. It is always, I am. Only the garment changes, and you can change it in an instant, not through a process of becoming, but through a single act of assumption. I told Neville this on a night he came to me wanting to become a teacher. He wanted to become a lecturer, a man of influence. He spoke about it as a goal. It's something he was working toward. I stopped him. I said, "You are not becoming a teacher. You are a teacher who has temporarily forgotten to stand at the front of the room. Stop walking toward the podium. You are already behind it." He looked at me the way people look when something they have been overcomplicating is suddenly made simple. And from that night, he stopped becoming and started being. The lectures followed, the audiences followed, the books followed, not because Neville had earned them, but because the state he occupied demanded them. Now, I want to pause here, because everything I have given you tonight is the recognition, the seeing, the understanding that the version of you that has your desire already exists and is not something you need to build or earn or travel to. But recognition alone does not complete the transfer. And this is where most people stop. They see it, they understand it, they even feel it for a moment, and then they go to sleep carrying the old day, the old evidence, the old inner speech. And by morning, the old self has reassembled itself with the efficiency of a habit that has been running for years. There are 4 movements that must happen in sequence every night for the subconscious to fully release the old state and lock into the new one. The first is revision, clearing the emotional residue of the day so the subconscious does not carry the old state's evidence into sleep. The second is correction of inner speech, silencing the narration that keeps describing you as the old version, the voice that whispers, "I still don't have it," while you are trying to feel that you do. The third is precise scene construction, not a vague visualization, but a single, specific scene experienced from first person with sensory detail that implies the desire is already a settled fact. And the fourth is falling asleep inside the state, the actual transfer, the moment consciousness crosses over so completely that the old identity does not reassemble by morning. You have been doing one of these, perhaps 2, and you have been wondering why you wake up back in the old room, why the feeling fades, why the recognition you had last night dissolves by afternoon. It fades because the sequence was never completed. The subconscious received a partial instruction, and partial instructions produce partial results. I have written a guide. I call it Rewrite Tonight. It teaches the first movement in full, not a summary of what I have told you in this video, a complete 3-minute pre-sleep revision protocol. How to identify the 3 moments from your day that are anchoring you to the old version of yourself. How to revise each one until the subconscious carries a clean record into sleep. And how to feel the specific clearing that makes the remaining 3 movements actually reach the depth where the transfer happens. This is what I gave Neville before I gave him anything else, before the scenes, before the states, before the great teachings for which he became known. I gave him the clearing, because a man who lies down at night carrying an unrevised day is planting his new seed in yesterday's soil. The clearing comes first, always. The guide is free. It is immediate. It is the starting point. And for those of you who already know, who can feel that the clearing is only the beginning, that you are ready for the full sequence, all 4 movements across 7 nights, you will find it waiting after you receive the guide. The exact protocol I gave Neville in the winter of 1933. 7 nights, 4 movements, the complete transfer. But do not think about that now. Start with the clearing. Start tonight. Comment the word reset below this video, not as a comment, as a declaration. You have spent long enough standing in the wrong room describing the room you want to be in. Comment reset, and I will send you the guide personally. Now let me give you something you can do tonight, before the full sequence, before the guide arrives. One thing, done deeply, that begins the shift. Tonight, in the state akin to sleep, when the body is heavy and the conscious mind has released its grip, I want you to do something different from what you have been practicing. Do not construct a scene of receiving your desire, not the moment of getting the news, not the celebration, not the breakthrough. Instead, construct a scene from after, a scene that takes place weeks or months after the desire arrived, a scene so ordinary it could not exist unless the desire was already a settled, unremarkable fact of your life. Not the moment you get the money, the Tuesday afternoon 3 months later when you are casually paying for something without checking the price. Not the moment the person says yes, the Sunday morning 6 months later when you are reading beside them in silence. Feel the ordinariness of it, the quiet normalcy. Let the scene be boring. Let it be the kind of moment you would never bother to tell someone about. Because boredom is the feeling of having, excitement is the feeling of receiving, and the subconscious knows the difference. Stay inside that scene. Do not narrate it. Do not check whether you're doing it correctly. Just feel it the way you feel the pillow beneath your head, without effort, without commentary. And let sleep take you. This is one piece of the 3rd movement, the full version, with the clearing that must come before it and the transfer that must complete it, is in the guide. I want to close with something I need you to remember, not tonight, but later, on the morning I described at the beginning of this video. The delay you have experienced, the gap between what you have practiced and what you have received, was never a failure of the law. It was the natural consequence of standing in one room while describing another. The law was answering you perfectly the entire time. It was giving you exactly what matched the state you were actually in, not the state you were reaching for. It was not ignoring you. It was obeying you with a precision that once you see it will take your breath away. But tonight, that changes. Not because you learned something new, because you finally understood something that was always true. The version of you that has the desire is not a destination. It is a location, and you now know how to walk through the door. The morning I described at the beginning of this video, the one where you wake up and it is simply there, ordinary, unremarkable, yours. That morning has already happened. You are the only one who does not know it yet. But after tonight, you will. In the next video, I am going to show you why the version of you that has it cannot fully arrive until the version of you that does not have it agrees to die, and why that death is the one thing you have been avoiding without knowing it.